All right, let's start off with some objectives for what we want to accomplish tonight. Should be a pretty short stream. We already downloaded EvenG. That's all done. It's already staged inside of the homelab environment. So we need to actually deploy EvenG and make it operational. We need to copy the images over to EvenG. There'll be some Cisco, a couple of Juniper, and VeloCloud SD-WAN. And then we'll round out with some basic testing, validate everything is operating as we expect it to. So let's pull back up our cookbook from what we downloaded last night. So for this deployment, we did a ISO configuration on an ESXi server. So we need that section. So we need page 26. Navigate over to there. Okay. So this part is already done. I've already deployed the VM. I've already staged it because I had to zeroize the entire hard drive for the 1 terabyte that I assigned to it. It took a while, so I did that off stream. Also, if you were watching the stream from last night, there was an issue that was encountered with copying over the EVE image, and the root directory that I was copying it to was for a thumb drive that's hosted in the ESX server. That's where the ESX image actually lives. And then I have a separate data store for all the hosts. So I didn't have enough room on that thumb drive. That was the reason why. Once I copied it directly to the data store, it was no longer a problem. So we're at this point where we can go ahead and power the server on. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and we'll let this boot. So it looks like this is going to be a fairly straightforward installation, very similar to an Ubuntu VM turnup. Looks like some basic hostname data like IP addressing and so forth. Probably assign a static IP just to make it easier to manage in the future. right, so we want English. Well, I want English anyway. Okay, so for IP addressing, it looks like it already pulled up an IP here. We'll go ahead and edit this and we'll set it to manual. And we'll set this to, let me clear an IP on my network real quick. So 1.150 is available. Set up. Okay, let me do this then. Okay. Don't need a proxy address. Continue. Go ahead and we'll wait for this to get loaded up. In the meantime, we will need to kind of prep for the images that we need to move over. There's a certain way that you have to do this for EVE-NG. Various folders that need to be created on the host itself, as well as specific host names. Sorry, not host names, but names for the file itself. So if we take a look at the documentation, there should be some naming mapping here. Yeah, so if you have like a virtual ASA image, this has to be the file name, or the folder name rather, and then this would need to be the file name. So we're going to need all this for when we copy everything over. And then at the end of it, we'll have to do a permission wrapper command. And I believe there's also a separate section that kind of explains this on a per image basis. So if we take a look at, there's some Juniper images that I'll be installing as well. Grab these real quick. It'll tell you what the file name is, and it'll kind of give you a walkthrough of what you need to copy over for each one. hopefully this will finish installing soon. And we can move on to copying all the images over. So let's see what images we have. So these are the images. So here are all the CML images that we have. So basically all the Cisco images, the main ones that we're going to be copying over are the firewall images, the CSR 1000V, some layer 2 switching we'll need that as well. I mean, maybe a layer 3 switch as well. Just have that there in case we need it. Probably don't need the rest of these, but we have them if we do need them. Then we have the Juniper images. So we'll have a virtual firewall, we'll have a virtual QFX, and then we'll also have a VMX, which is their router. So router, switch, firewall. That should round it up on the Juniper side. So let's take a look at the documentation here. So we set up okay, so this is all done. Got to that part. Okay. Move the ISO. So once we're done with that and it boots back up, so the management IP address. These updates take forever. You know, I haven't installed CML yet, but I'm wondering if CML is going to be much easier to install since it should really just be one package. Let's see what it looks like. The only thing that's unfortunate about things like CML is it only gives you a Cisco sandbox to play in. So a lot of networks just really aren't one vendor. Typically it's over 90% of the time a mix. You have a little bit of Cisco, a little bit of Juniper, Arista, Dell, you name it. And in order for you to really operate within that environment, you're jumping between these different platforms. CML is nice with it being all just one together solution, but it doesn't really help you for the different real world equipment that you may be encountering. But for certifications, if you're looking for your CCNA or something like that, it should be more than, actually even for your CCNA, it's more than enough. It would be like a CCNP level tool that you would want to use. But if you're doing any real, engineering work where you're going to be hopping between different platforms, then you're going to want to look at something like a GNS3 or an EVE-NG. So let's see, CML server requirements, 8 gigs of memory, 4 plus physical cores on the Intel processor, 32 gigs or more of hard disk space. Actually pretty low. See what the install looks like. Okay, so it looks like a fairly standard install, nothing crazy. So you have the image ISO file that you attach in the data store so that you can reference the images on the VM. You deploy the VM from an OVA, allocate the various CPU cores that you need. It looks like there's some special settings that they want related to CPU shares. They want to lock memory too, so that memory can't be shared between different VMs in your hypervisor, which may not be a problem depending upon what you're using. But that may mean if you don't have enough memory that you have to shut down a couple of your guests in order to accommodate CML. It looks like this is still going. Oh, that's unfortunate. Alright, well, let's take a look and scout out what we have to do once this gets stood up. So we'll have to reboot the VM. Be expected. What else? Set up the Eve IP address. Okay, so we already have an IP for it. Log in and do an update on the host and then reboot it. There really shouldn't be much else to upgrade. I wouldn't expect, if it's going through a round of upgrades right now. There may be some additional packages, but I wouldn't expect it to be to the extent of this initial setup. It should be grabbing a lot of that already. What are the default credentials that'll log into this? So it's root. What's the password? Alright, well, I'll look that up, I guess. ENET. Really? Oh, even G, the password will be Eve. Okay. So username, root, password, Eve. That makes sense. Okay. So let's see here. We'll do a second apt-get upgrade. Verify the version by doing a depackage evaluation. Validate DNS reachability. Launch Eve manually. Okay. Another round of reboots. Hopefully it's big enough to see for everybody. And that's pretty much it. Okay. Oh, jeez. Alright, so in the meantime, we'll take a look at what the operating procedure appears to be for the images. Let's see. Okay, so you're gonna make whatever. So this should map to the table. So VMX router, yep, and that should be renamed to HDA. So make directory VMX. So this treated it differently. So I guess we'll have to see after we untar the file if we get these two files. Based on dual node setup where the routing engine is connected to a forwarding plane and they act like a single node. Makes sense. That's how the devices work in production. Any day now. Well, I guess in the meantime, I can do some advent of code. So we're kind of looking at this yesterday. So we have an input. A lot of input. Got to figure out what is the largest of them added up as separated by a new line. You know what? Before I start this, I think I was reading something about Eve having API calls. That'd be interesting if you can like make an API call to turn up and turn down nodes. Well, WebI uses only APIs, so this is essential part of the development of the web UI themes, blah, 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 blah. SSL protocol, so they ignore certificates. Alright, so it looks like you're generating a cookie, and you'll invoke that cookie for future calls. Okay. List of nodes. Archetypes. It's kind of an ugly way to lay out all their API calls, though. They had like a Swagger type of template. So can you start nodes? Or one or all the nodes in the lab? Okay. API folders, okay. Users, API admin. API labs, user 1. User 1. Okay, so the labs are hierarchical underneath the user, so you drill down into individual users, and from there they have different labs that you can then do different calls against. Okay, makes sense. Configured interface from a node. Then you probably have to get. You can get a list of nodes. Okay, so you could do some interesting stuff with this. You can kind of set up an entire lab if you wanted to, it looks like. Just using API calls, not even having to log in and do anything. Hopefully this should be finishing up. Cool. Reboot now. We'll have to take out the CD-ROM. Let's go ahead and do that. So going back to our awesome documentation here, we've now reached the point where we rebooted. We're no longer referencing the ISO. This will be booting for the first time. We already have a management IP for it. Unless it's going to be different than a host IP, but I would assume it's the same. Alright, so let's start making a game plan here. So for the CML, what are we gonna keep? The ASA image we'll need. What else? CSR 1000V. And I think the two switches, the layer 2 switch and a layer 3 switch. May go back and add the Nexus 9K later. For now, I think that'll be sufficient. We'll go to the junipers and let's see. Routing engine PV. Okay, so we're gonna need actually all of these. Oh, what was the other one? Velo Cloud. And all these are going to be needed for the SD-WAN. It's only done. So we can just start taking a look at that. And so we have the Juniper lapped up already. There's Velo Cloud. So what do we have? The CSR 1000V. 17. What did we have? The CSRs. That was 1703, so this should work. So VIOS, and then VIOS L2. There's nothing crazy there. All right, so I guess what I can do in the meantime is start grabbing MD5 hashes, since I'll need to validate once I copy these over what those hashes are. Okay. Let's see. Do that would be You just write a quick script. Copy. Okay. Here are all of the MD5 hashes for the viral